Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, broadcast from Morgan Lewis, the law firm here in Philadelphia. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Andrew Hanlon, Caleb Murphy, Merrill Lynch, Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, and Taylor Levinson. Shannon, can you give us a rundown of who we have on the show today, please?
Sure, Herb. We have a great lineup. We have Martie Bernicker, Executive Director of SpeakUp, Joel Davne, Founder and CEO of Cloudnexa, Evan Brandoff and Zubin Teherani, co-founders of LeagueSide, and Max Perelman, co-founder of Biomeme.
Let's get to know our first guest, Martie Bernicker, Executive Director of SpeakUp. Martie, what is SpeakUp, and how many kids did you help last year?
SpeakUp is a program that works in 40 local middle and high schools. We worked with 3,500 youth and families. And SpeakUp gets young people talking to the adults in their life, their parents and their educators, about things that are hard to talk about. So mental health, stress, social media, relationships, drugs and alcohol, etc.
Where are you from, and how many brothers and sisters?
I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia, and I have 8 siblings.
And where are you in the pecking order?
I have a twin brother, and we are 6 and 7.
Tell me a little bit about what was going on around the conversation around the dining room table when you were a kid.
So we had family dinner pretty much every night, and my mom had started this thing where she would throw a tennis ball and try to get you to talk, and she would ask, what was your happy time of the day? What was your sad time of the day? And so...
What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
Interestingly enough, it's really about getting the conversation going and having it be more than just your typical what went on, really more about people's experiences and feelings and stuff.
So you think that that tennis ball around the dining room table when you were a kid had something to do with your insight about the health of getting kids to talk about stuff?
I think it did. I mean, we grew as a family, too, that we learned to be more open over time, and my brother really helped us with that.
Evan?
In the green room, you mentioned the powerful quote, "Strength exists alongside struggle." What was your inspiration behind that quote?
One of the things we see is that it's normal for families to struggle. So everybody experiences something at some point, and you can't see what's going on. That's why we have people say it. And that my brother, for example, he was president of his school as a junior and a senior. He had lots of leadership roles. And at the same time, he was also a young gay man who was struggling and using drugs and alcohol. So we see that a lot. People are both struggling and have a lot of strengths that we can capitalize on.
Drew?
Martie, I want to go back to the dinner room, the dinner table, and just ask, what kind of stories were being told there? What were your brothers and sisters saying, and what were you talking about?
And I think what's typical in those kinds of conversations is you start with the easier stuff, what was happening on the sports fields or what was happening in the classroom, and then over time and with practice, you can get more into with some of the social and emotional stuff. And I was usually the social and emotional person.
Well, why is that? Why were you the social and emotional person?
I think a little more sensitive and compassionate. I think also when you're 6 and 7 in a family, you get to see a lot of things from your siblings older than you, and you get to learn and pay attention.
What was your group of friends like back when you were younger?
I had a really great group of friends. They were pretty much all athletes as well. And I also tended to gravitate to some of the underdogs and just to be a person that could go across different groups of friends.
So not only with your friends, but your family, people always came to you to tell their story.
I think that's true, yep. I've always been a person who loves conversation, and often I'm the one talking too much.
Martie, going back to the quote you said earlier that strength exists alongside struggle, what does that look like for you?
I think for me, I was a leader as a young person. I had lots of leadership roles, president of my class, president of both my schools. I was a strong athlete, and I did really well in school. But at the same time, I was insecure. And I think one of the things we see with a lot of young people today is that, people are struggling at the same time that they have a lot of strengths. And that was true of me. It was true of my brother. It's true of our family. It's really the SpeakUp story, is that we can be both, and things change over time.
Martie, you mentioned you played several sports growing up. What was your favorite sport to play?
Lacrosse was my favorite.
And what was your role on the team?
I played wing.
And what personality trait does someone that plays wing have to have?
Well, I think I was always on the move and running a lot, but also mediating between the offense and the defense, going back and forth and being able to kind of play both ways.
So you're like the mediator.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
I think that's the case now with our work. I mean, we get the conversations going between youth educators and parents, and sometimes you have to do some translating in that.
Martie, I wanted to go back to the struggle. You come from a very well-respected family in the Philadelphia region, but you also had some struggles. Can you tell us a little about that and what your parents went through when you were growing up?
Sure. I think the fact that we are a well-respected family and a visible family because we're so large, being honest about what was going on with, like, that my brother was dying of AIDS, that he was a young gay man, that was a really big deal at the time in 1992 to be open about that. And also, they experienced a bankruptcy, too. And, I think that was important to be open about that.
How did that impact you, that bankruptcy, and how did that impact the family?
My parents have always said that it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you deal with it, and that you always know who your true friends are when you go through hardship. But for my parents, I think my perspective was that going bankrupt, they went bankrupt before they lost my brother. And when you go through that, you're used to being able to do anything, and it's sort of a sense of powerlessness. I think that was probably the first time they really felt like they couldn't control all the variables. And that really helped them, because to watch your son die, there's really nothing more powerless than that. So I think that gave them good practice. And also they didn't care what people thought, and that was important too.
How did that make you feel, seeing your parents kind of face that type of struggle?
I know they're just great role models. I think that, my brother always assumed he wouldn't be able to come out to my dad. And interestingly enough, my dad went to him. So, you just see that we see this all the time with kids. They make assumptions about what their parents can or can't do, what they can and can't tell them. And yet you'd be surprised. And so I was surprised by their strength, their grace, and they walked through it, and their real friends were there.
And do you think these hurdles that you faced back in your youth have impacted how you lead today and how you help the youth you help today?
I think so. I mean, there's very little that can shock me. I make assumptions about, families struggle. These issues run in families. And so all families struggle at some point with something. So I feel really humble
Martie,
about that.
What have you learned from the kids at SpeakUp that have impacted the way you raise your own kids?
So I was telling you before that my third son, decided to be a cantor in church, and he wasn't really a singer. So he's standing up in front of a couple hundred people, and I'm in the front row, and I'm thinking to myself, I should tell him that he can get some lessons. And immediately I heard this kid from SpeakUp's voice in my head, and they said, we don't even like to tell our parents what we like to do, because then they want to make us do it better. And so I thought, well, maybe this is that. And I never said anything. And about a year later, he came to me and he asked for lessons, and now he's a phenomenal singer. Another example is I'm sitting in a breakout room, and a young man says, I believe every kid should have their own account in the trust bank. And the parents are like, where are you going with this? And he said, yeah, I had 3 older siblings, and they made all these mistakes, and they burnt through all the trust. And I just think every kid should have their own account in the trust bank. Fast forward, my youngest son wanted to go to the Made in America concert, and one of my older sons had a challenge there, and so I didn't want to let him go, but I just remembered that kid saying everyone deserves their own account in the trust bank. So it's big things the kids say, and it's little things they say that really do inform you.
Why is this SpeakUp so meaningful to you?
I believe that if you can be honest about the reality of your life, you're going to find support, you're going to find solutions, and you're really going to help somebody else. And I know that's our story, too. My mom and my brother and our family, I think, have helped literally thousands of people each year realize that what they're going through is normal, that they can find support, and things can change, and they have lots of strengths as well.
Isn't the key word vulnerability here?
Yep.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think that, people always think that you want to present a better image of yourself or that you'll be judged. But really, there's so much freedom in just admitting that it doesn't go perfectly for you and that you're navigating through just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. The idea of just navigating through, it's hard to be a young person.
Mm-hmm. So this is a nonprofit organization you're running.
It is.
And so you're not making a ton of money from this yourself personally, are you?
No.
But you really enjoy doing it.
I love doing it, yeah.
Why?
Well, first of all, it helps me as a parent. I always say, God, I'd hate to see what I would have been like if I didn't have so many doses of this. I would have really been in trouble. But no, it helps us as parents, all of the staff. Most of us are parents. And also, it's got a lot of purpose. I mean, I think we focus as a society on academics or athletics, but really, it's the social and emotional stuff that is detouring and derailing our kids.
Give me that again. Give me that last part again.
Just that we focus on the academics and the athletics, but it's the social and emotional that's detouring and derailing our kids. We're losing a lot of kids, and a lot more are struggling.
So what's the detour, but what's the roadmap? Give me that again.
Yeah, so the detour is, I always use the GPS analogy, that young people are in the driver's seat of their lives. They're making lots of decisions when we're not there. But parents and adults are the GPS system. We can help them, and it only works in 3 conditions. 1, if you turn on the device. 2, you keep the lines of communication open. And 3, if you can be honest about your starting location. And then you can always reroute.
What's the website address of this organization known as SpeakUp?
SpeakUp.org.
Let me have that one more time.
SpeakUp.org.
We've been speaking with Martie Bernicker, who's the Executive Director of SpeakUp here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to know more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com. And we will be back in a moment right after this business spotlight. Want help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. And we'd like to introduce Joel Davne, founder and CEO of Cloudnexa. Joel, what is Cloudnexa? What are you guys doing?
Cloudnexa helps businesses get to the cloud. We move them out of data centers and into public cloud.
Mm-hmm. And where are you from originally?
Suburban Philadelphia.
And how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I am the youngest. I have an older brother who's 13 years older than me and an older sister who's 11 years older.
So you're the youngest of 3 by far. And how many starts have you had in business, and how many exits have you had?
I guess I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I've had about 6 starts, 1 meaningful exit.
Mm-hmm. 1 meaningful exit. All right. So I understand that something happened when you were a kid. What was going on about 1 year old or so?
Yeah, I grew up in a single-parent household. My father passed away when I was a year old and was raised by my mother.
Mm-hmm. How'd that affect you?
Well, of course, with any child growing up, you want to be surrounded by both parents. I didn't have that luxury, so I was raised by my mother, who was a terrific, loving person.
Mm-hmm. What kind of you mentioned that when you were a kid, 8 to 14, you were involved with music. What kind of what was your role? What instrument did you play? And what was your role with the other group of kids?
I started out playing tuba, which is the bass in the band, and later on in high school, I actually became a drum major.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the personality trait of tuba and drum major, and what that has to do with your role in business.
Well, the tuba and the bass line is foundational for music, so it actually gives you a very granular sense and feel for the orchestration of the band. And of course, being a drum major, it's all about getting everybody to follow the music properly, and you have to learn how to conduct and participate with the music to get everybody on the same notes.
Is that pretty close to what you're doing in business nowadays?
Yes, it's pretty much very similar to what I do now.
And because of those personality traits, you've had a meaningful exit, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you learn to ask a lot of questions, and you have to pick a critical path, and that if you get lucky, it leads to a good exit.
I don't know if it's luck. It sounds to me like you're a pretty hard worker. Drew?
Joe, your dad passed away at a young age. Did you have anybody you looked up to or was a role model in your life?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had a terrific extended family. My grandfather was a big part of my life. My brother and sister were part of it, and I had some really good uncles. And, of course, my mother at one point had got me involved with Big Brothers, and I had a gentleman who was a big brother of mine for many years.
And how did that Big Brother impact you?
Well, it was very meaningful to me because it was somebody who was just focused on me at that time as opposed to a family dynamic. But it also taught me that, seemingly strangers can come together and have a big impact on people's lives.
And was there like one key takeaway you remember? I think this gentleman's name was Dick, that Dick kind of taught you or that you bring to work every day?
Well, Dick was a business owner, and that concept was somewhat foreign to me. So I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time at Dick's office and meet his staff and his family, and it really showed me some aspects of life that I was just unaware of.
And what do you remember about those times?
I was amazed at the way he conducted business. And
what do you mean? You're smiling. What are you talking about?
Dick was a man in the community, so he was on the local school board, and he was part of the Lions Club.
How's that affecting you nowadays?
Well, look, he gave a lot of time. I'm probably half the person that Dick was in terms of his ability to give so much time to people.
I don't know about that. It sounds to me like he's been actually a role model to you. Shannon?
Joel, in the green room you mentioned the importance of taking the time to slow down. What did you mean by that?
Well, now I think you can miss a lot of things if you're charging full steam ahead. So I think it's really important to look for subtle clues in your life, especially with my children, my wife. It's really important.
What are you
to pay
talking about when you're saying? So what should we be paying? What should we be appreciating? What are you talking about there?
Well, it's good to connect and ask people how they're feeling and what's really making them happy.
You're a business owner. You've started 6 businesses. You've had a really substantial life. What are you talking about? Give me that again.
Well, you can't take things for granted.
What kind of stuff?
You have to make sure that you get the important conversations with your children out on the table, and make sure that what's important to your children, that they understand that that's also important to you. And same thing for your spouse. I think losing a father when I was a year old probably taught me that you can't take things for granted.
And how do you bring that with you to work every day?
Well, you have to look hard because when people are working, they're not necessarily showing you everything that's going on because they're focused on the business. So you do have to look for
why would you care about that? Business is blood and guts and numbers.
Happy employees. That results.
Do you really care about happy employees?
I do.
Why?
I do. I look at it like this is a place that I want to come to work, and I want my employees to be happy to come to work there.
I just needed you to say that because you don't read that in the newspapers, and it sounds to me like you're running the kind of place that I would want to work. Kayla?
Yeah, Joel, how do you think your dad passing affected your siblings?
It affected all of us, I'm sure, differently. My brother had a much more developed relationship with my father than, of course, my sister did, given their ages. But we've talked about it through the years, and I think it's a life experience, and it's something that everybody experiences things differently. Everybody has to deal with certain life experiences that anybody else would seem difficult.
So with you being the youngest by 11 and 13 years and your siblings really feeling your father passing away, did that help plant the seeds for business success because you were able to be humble and ask questions to your siblings?
Well, I'm learning that. That probably is a big part of it.
What's a big part of it? What do you mean?
You have to ask tough questions. And you also have to be prepared to answer tough questions.
Wait a minute. So it's possible because your father passed, you brought other men and women into your life, and because you wanted that intimacy, and you're telling me you think that helped plant the seeds for 6 startups and a substantial exit?
Well, I guess everything's connected, so it probably weighs more on your emotional side of business than.
What do you mean everything's connected? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, you just don't. Even though I've started 6 companies, I'm still the same underlying person. So you learn things through the course of your life, and you employ them to for different levers and dials, as you like to say, to make things happen.
I'm just curious, like when you're faced with a tough decision at work, what would you hear Dick saying to you, or what advice would he be providing to you?
Dick would say, trust your instincts and do what you feel is right.
And how did he demonstrate that to you when you were kind of watching him as a youth?
Well, I guess Dick was from Brooklyn, and he spoke with a New York accent. And, I guess around here, a New York accent, kind of sticks out. Yeah. And he wasn't shy about it. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind and let people know, what he was about and where he was from. And, it was a good lesson.
And I felt like you told us in the green room a lesson you learned from a debate coach you had.
Yeah.
Well, what did the debate coach tell you about yourself?
I was in 9th grade, and I was still formative years trying to figure things out, and as I guess a lot of people are in high school. And he said to me, Joel, if you ever figure out how to organize all that talent, I want to be there to watch it. And I still think about that.
It's
kind
of deep.
It's a deep thing for a 9th grader. And I wonder if I ever have figured it all out.
So he identified in you that you had a great deal of talent. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think I was always told by people in my life that you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it.
How'd you feel about that?
It gave me confidence.
Huh. So you're able to get confidence and also tune your instincts because you were listening to other people. What's the website address to this organization called Cloudnexa?
Cloudnexa.com.
Oh, how do you spell it?
Cloudnexa.com.
We've been speaking with Joel Davne, founder and CEO of Cloudnexa, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, and more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment right after this break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Evan Brandoff and Zubin Teherani, co-founders of an organization called LeagueSide. What is LeagueSide? What are you guys doing?
LeagueSide is a platform that connects community youth sports leagues with regional and national sponsors.
Huh. Interesting. And how many dollars have you guys raised to build this business?
$3 million.
$3 million. And when did you guys start the business?
About 4 years ago now.
4 years ago. And why is the chemistry working between the two of you?
We're yin and yang. There's so many reasons, but we just balance each other out really, really well.
When you say yin and yang and balance each other out really well, give me some more details of that. What do you mean? What are you guys talking about?
So I'm going to use a metaphor from the 76ers. I'm a big trust the process guy. Mm-hmm. I'm always focused on the process. And Evan is very high level, saying that the process doesn't matter unless you win a championship. So that type of yin and yang, that pull, that compromise is what makes it work.
Huh. Interesting. Shannon?
Zubin, in terms of personality traits, what makes Evan a good business partner?
Evan and I think what makes it really work is it's like a relationship. We say we're not co-founders, we're life partners. So the same rules that apply in a relationship apply for us. So we lived together for 4.5 years. We had rules like you can't go to sleep mad at each other. We always directly address our problems head on. And so that type of communication, direct and to the point, has made it really work.
And in the green room, you mentioned something about a trash story when you guys were roommates.
Yeah, so living together and working together, personal and professional life bleed in together. So specifically one time I was really mad at Evan because he never takes out the trash in the bathroom. And so I blew up at him, completely ridiculous. I'm always doing the dirty work. I'm taking everything out. And Evan's response was completely understanding, listened to what I said, and then he created a repeating calendar event on his business calendar for everyone to see, take out the trash every single Wednesday night.
And Evan, on the opposite side, what makes Zubin a good business partner?
Yeah, so many reasons, but I tried to narrow it down to 3. One, he's the smartest person I know. What makes him so smart is he's just a great learner. We'll need to build a website. He'll learn over the weekend the best way to build a website, and it'll already be built. Second, he's so incredibly supportive. There's high highs and low lows in building a company, and it's great to have someone that is there by your side no matter what. And third, you might not see it at the surface, but he's probably the most competitive person that I know. And that hunger to win is what really drives us forward.
Speaking of competition, you guys sort of, your relationship started somewhat on a basketball court playing one-on-one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And are you guys competitive with each other?
Yeah, I think we can be competitive with each other. The origination, so we met during a 5-week training program for Venture for America, a 2-year entrepreneurship fellowship program. And I'd like to say we met by playing basketball a lot with each other, but Zubin played basketball. I just kind of stood there on the court.
And do you guys, in your business, do you face any headwinds?
Yeah, we face headwinds every single day.
And how do you get through that together?
Yeah, so speaking to the high highs and low lows of entrepreneurship, can think back to about 2 years ago now when things were really tough. We had a couple of quarters in a row that we weren't growing at all. And I took it really personally. I visibly was shaken by the down quarters, and mentally I wasn't sure if I was the right person to lead LeagueSide anymore. And I'll never forget that I took Zubin aside and we got a bite to eat together. And I said, Zubin, I don't know if I'm the right person to be leading this anymore. And he looked at me in the eyes and he said, Evan, you're not fucking leaving me. And he made me go take a vacation to Europe and then came back, and things have been growing ever since.
What did that mean to you, to have him back you up like that?
The world. I think that's what matters most in life, the relationships that you make. And we're very lucky to...
What do you mean by that? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, when thinking through what, I guess for me personally, you can make all the money in the world, you could have all the things, but all that really matters is the relationships that you have and the people that you have in your life. And, more than anything, it's great that we're building a great company together, but so fortunate to be able to be life partners with Zubin.
Yeah, it's a cliche that it's about the journey, not the destination, but we always say for the love of the game. We do this for the love of the game, for the relationships, for the hardships, for the highs, the lows, and so it's fortunate that we're able to share that together, and it works.
Before LeagueSide, did you have any previous ideas?
So my first failed business was in college. We created cell phones. We manufactured cell phones and sold them to students studying abroad. And what I learned from that experience, which is very relevant to this conversation, is it's really hard to start a company by yourself. Not just from a skill set perspective, but more so from the having someone you can turn to, talk to, lean on, talk about the highs, the lows. And so from that experience, I told myself I would never start a company by myself.
So back when you were talking about your life and specifically the trash story, you said that you were always doing the dirty work. Now, while that can get a little annoying, especially when it's the trash, in the business side, do you find yourselves kind of taking that same partnership?
So Evan and I always say we're not the co-founders of LeagueSide. We work for LeagueSide. And so one of our core values is no ego. It's not about us. It's not about... We are the co-founders and also the janitors. So it's something that we take with us every single day at work, that nothing's beneath us.
So you guys were able to raise $3 million. Is it possible the reason that the investors decided to put the money in is because of the relationship the two of you have?
I'd like to think so, especially early on. You're investing in the people, and we're fortunate that all the investors that we've been fortunate enough to work with, we have really close relationships with them still and have become close friends with them. So, yeah, I think a big reason is because of the relationship we have.
A great story is Evan and I are part of a weekly pickup basketball game. And from that basketball game, we've hired people, we've gotten investors from that basketball game, and I have to believe part of it is seeing our on-court chemistry. We both know our roles, we know our positioning, spacing, we know where we're going to be at certain times. So I definitely think that type of chemistry comes through.
Yeah, Zubin's role is to dunk and win. My role is to recruit the people on the court.
And I guess when you guys were having issues with the business, problems with the business, and Evan was feeling down and out, I guess the good thing is not to say anything to the investors because they may pull out or they may badmouth you to the other investors.
Yeah, I mean,
Or did you level with them and ask them for their help?
It's more the latter.
Really? Why would you do that? Why would you go ahead and tell the truth?
I know, it's crazy why to tell the truth.
What's the benefit of that?
The reason they're not, our investors are more than just capital for the business.
What are you talking about? What do you mean? All they're doing is writing a check, right?
Not at all. So the first thing that we say whenever someone joins the team or invests in LeagueSide is we say, welcome to the LeagueSide family. So specifically to investors, it's way more than just being, capital is, of course, the lifeblood that's helped propelled us to where we are and where we're going to be. But when you're part of the LeagueSide family, you're experiencing the highs, the lows, and we look to our investors for guidance in every turn of the way.
Wow. What? I thought that the benefit of the money was the money. You're telling me the money comes attached with wisdom that can actually help?
It's crazy, but really? Yes.
Well, I guess they've made money, so they know something. And you guys are open to feeling vulnerable and telling them the boo-boos you're making, and you're not afraid of them telling you they never want to talk to you again or stuff like that?
Zubin and I started LeagueSide when we were 23, and I think one of our superpowers is that we're self-aware. We know what we know what we don't know, and we know that there's a hell of a lot that we don't know. So we're, I think, very good at leveraging the relationships that we've been fortunate to build. I guess
that would give an investor comfort that they really can trust you, huh? What's the website address of this organization?
LeagueSide.com.
Let me have that one more time.
LeagueSide.com.
We've been speaking with Evan Brandoff and Zubin Teherani, co-founders of LeagueSide here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment right after this business spotlight. Want help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Max Perelman, co-founder of Biomeme. What is Biomeme, Max?
We do mobile DNA analysis.
So give me an example of some of the benefits to your clients.
So we empower anyone, anywhere with the same capabilities as a DNA lab, but in the palm of their hand.
Wow. And where are you from originally?
Pittsburgh.
And tell us about who you were 8 to 14 years old.
8 to 14, I was a chubby kid, and watched a lot of TV. Loved cooking shows, science shows, Discovery Channel, etc. Didn't really. I think a lot of the other people have spoken. They talk about their sports. I wasn't really on any sports teams. If I was really bad at them. Mostly hung out with girls because they weren't the big sports folks. I wasn't going mountain biking or playing basketball with the boys, in the corner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
What did your mom and dad do for a living, Max?
They're both psychologists. So
and how did that impact you? You said earlier that's why I am the way I am. What do you mean by that?
I think I'm maybe a little bit more self-reflective than others might be.
And how has being self-reflective helped you?
I think it's helped me be a little bit more vulnerable with my staff. That's definitely...
I don't understand how vulnerable with the staff has anything to do with building a business. Can you help make the connection there?
I definitely have. Probably have heard of the term imposter syndrome. Definitely have a little bit of that, and it's a challenge to feel authentic when I'm trying to lead the team. And if I can just be honest with myself and with them and tell them where I'm at, psychologically, and I'm feeling vulnerable, I think it's easier to make a connection with my staff, with my friends.
So you think making the connection is important to building the business, huh?
Oh yeah,
okay.
It's everything.
I just wanted to make sure.
You also mentioned that you had thick skin too. How has that helped you?
You got to roll with the punches, and yeah, it's and don't take everything so personally.
Kayla?
Yeah, Max, in the green room, you mentioned that you had a best friend named Jackson growing up. What effect did he have on you?
Jackson was an immigrant from Taiwan, and when we got to be best friends, he introduced me to this whole other aspect of the world, the world of high school. He all of his friends and kind of our new clique were immigrants, everyone Asian immigrants, everyone in ESL class, etc. And I got very very interested in Asia, how different the cultures were, the languages. I started studying Japanese, and eventually. Got the opportunity to travel around Asia. Traveled to Japan and Taiwan.
Who did you do this with, and how old were you?
The first time I went out to Asia, it was, I think, 9th grade. I went out and
with
traveled
whom?
Alone. I just went alone. Yeah.
So where'd you go in Asia?
Japan and Taiwan.
Japan and Taiwan, and you're in 9th grade, and you went alone.
Yeah, my parents traveled quite a bit when they were younger. My dad was in the Peace Corps. My mom was
Didn't you find that frightening to go to in 9th grade to go to Asia?
No,
alone?
9th grade, you're not afraid of anything.
Okay, so you weren't afraid of anything, and you had the guts to go to Asia by yourself in the 9th grade. Okay, Evan.
Max, you mentioned you were chubby when you were younger. You're very slim now. When did you lose the weight?
In junior year of high school, I studied abroad and to Japan, and I think that was the time I kind of said, okay, this is an opportunity to remake myself, to start again, and decided to just focus on eating tofu and broccoli for about 6 months.
What else shifted in your life along with the weight loss?
Puberty. I went to puberty pretty late too.
Or did you change as a person? Once you lost the weight.
Yeah, how did you shift as a person?
Yeah, I did. I'd say I was not the best person. I was kind of a jerk growing up. I'd say I could be a bully.
Was that because you were bullied?
Yeah, I mean.
So you were bullied, and the bullied kid became a bully.
Definitely, and I think when I came back from Japan, I tried to shift things quite a bit.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Forgiveness, second chances.
Max, it's obvious that when you look in the rearview mirror, you're not totally proud of some of the things you did. But I just have a question. Yeah. If you were giving advice to a kid that was maybe being bullied, what would that advice be?
Well, actually, what I'm picking up is the fact that you went for forgiveness. How'd you know about forgiveness at such a young age?
I didn't. I'm forgiving myself now and other people.
Mm-hmm. How's this self-awareness, this tremendous self-awareness? Because sometimes those that are bullies never recognize that they're bullies. How does this tremendous self-awareness helping you build this organization, and what's it doing to the culture of the organization?
I would hope that my ability to be vulnerable would enable other people in the organization to be vulnerable to me and to each other.
What's that do to building the team? Isn't that the glue that holds it all together?
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm. So from traveling abroad to even talking about yourself now, you seem very fearless. So what are you afraid of?
My kids dying, probably. When my daughters were quite young, I lost them once in San Francisco. And I thought maybe they were dead.
Mm-hmm. So you really seek, you really enjoy, you really crave, you really want the connection. Anything that causes separation, that's just not you. It's it's interesting. You hear about business, it's about litigation. That's not what you're about, is it?
No, I create very close personal connections with the people I work with.
Shannon?
And my co-founders, yeah.
Max, how old are your kids?
13 and 9.
And what have you learned from them that you bring with you to business every day?
An inquisitiveness and just these kids, they absorb information like sponges, and everything is amazing and new. And I like to approach my work in the same way.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I don't have a science background. I mean, the last time I took science class, I think I was like 9th grade biology. But I'm part of a biotech company, and it's amazing. Every day is a new learning for me, and I just absorb it, and I love it so much.
Mm-hmm. So you're one of 3 founders of this business?
Yeah, one of 3 co-founders, exactly.
What do you do different than the other 2?
My 2 co-founders, Jesse Van Westernen runs biology. He's a molecular biologist. And then our 3rd co-founder is Mark DeJohn. He's both my first cousin, and he leads our engineering team.
How's this forgiveness thing helping build the business?
Nobody's perfect, and you're never going to have the A-team staff. You can't run a company with all A-team staff. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and you need to understand that everybody's human and everybody has the best of intentions. And if you can identify when there are challenges, be honest about those challenges and work through the solutions together.
As opposed to
constantly thinking that someone is against you or doesn't have the best intentions at heart. And, and forgiveness, frankly.
Uh-huh. So as opposed to separation, you look for the oneness.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
The oneness that we're all struggling through this life that we have, and it's better to do it together than alone.
Why is this business filling you?
Why is it filling me?
How's it fill you?
I started Biomeme because I wanted to make the world a better place. Every company that I've started has been about somehow changing the world. My daughter, I remember I explained what I did to my daughter once, and she got it, and she said, "Can I help you?"
What's the website address to this organization?
Biomeme.com.
We've been speaking with Max Perelman, co-founder of Biomeme, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Shannon, can you give us a rundown quickly on who we had on the
Herb.
show?
We had a great show. Martie Bernicker, Executive Director of SpeakUp. Joel Davne, founder and CEO of Cloudnexa. Evan Brandoff and Zubin Teherani, co-founders of LeagueSide. And just now, Max Perelman, co-founder of Biomeme.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts Andrew Hanlon, Caleb Murphy, Merle, and Shannon Lane, Mark Knight, Frank, and Taylor Levinson for giving me a hand structure in the questions. Hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.